The forest stretched like a shadowed ocean, trees towering and whispering, secrets with every gust of wind. Night had begun to settle over the verdant clan lands, and the moon cast a pale glow that flickered across the moss-covered ground. Elara moved carefully through the undergrowth, her hands brushing over rough bark, her heart steady, though a part of her still ached. The forest had always been her sanctuary, a place to escape the burdens of the clan. But tonight, it was also a place of reckoning. She had not seen Kael in years. The alpha of the Verdant clan, strong, untouchable, feared by friend and rival alike. Kael, who had once promised protection and then turned his back when she needed him most. That memory was a wound that never fully healed. And yet, there was something in her chest that fluttered. Something that had not died. Something she could not name. Fate had not forgotten, even if Kael had. A rustle of leaves ahead caught her attention. She froze, hand tightening around the staff she carried, not as a weapon but as a support for long walks through the wild lands. Then she sawed a wolf, large and silver-eyed, caught in a hunter's trap. Its leg was pinned cruelly, and it whimpered softly, fear and pain in its gaze. Elara knelt beside it, murmuring soothing words. "Easy. I won't hurt you," she whispered. Her fingers brushed the trap, examining it carefully. The animal flinched, and she froze, feeling a presence behind her. "You always did have a way with them." Her blood ran cold. The voice was deep, steady, commanding Kael's. She turned sharply, eyes meeting his. He was taller than she remembered, broader, cloaked in the black and green of the verdant alpha. His gaze was intense, dark as the night, yet beneath it, a flicker of something softer lingered. "You," her voice caught, torn between anger and disbelief. "Why are you here?" "I could ask you the same," he replied, his tone measured, careful. "The forest isn't safe for someone alone at night." Elara's jaw tightened. "I am always alone. I have been for years. I survive." Kael's gaze softened slightly, but the weight of his alpha authority remained. He stepped closer, careful not to alarm the wolf. "You shouldn't have had to survive alone. You shouldn't have been left." Her chest ached at the words. Years of silence and distance, and now this sudden remorse. She did not answer, only continued to work on the trap. Her hands were skilled, quick, and gentle. In moments, the trap clicked open, freeing the wolf. It limped but did not run, looking back at her with strange loyalty. Kael's eyes followed the wolf, then returned to her. "You've grown stronger, more than I expected." "I've had to," she said softly. "The world doesn't wait for anyone." For a moment, they stood in silence. Moonlight caught the lines of his face, harsh and beautiful, and she remembered all the moments she had spent hoping for him to return, praying he would remember her. But the memory of betrayal was fresh, a bitter taste that made her stomach twist. "You shouldn't have come," she finally said, her voice steadier than she felt. "And yet, I am here," he said, a shadow of a smile touching his lips. "I couldn't stay away. Not when the clan, not when you." He stopped himself, words caught somewhere between regret and fear. Elara's heart thudded painfully. He had no right. He had abandoned her. And still, here he was, stirring something inside her that she had spent years trying to bury. The wind shifted, carrying a chill that made them both shiver. And then, something strange happened. The air around them seemed to hum, a faint glow rising from the moss beneath their feet. Elara stepped back, eyes widening. "What is that?" Kael whispered, his own voice tinged with awe. Elara's fingers tingled, and the glow pulsed stronger. She realized, with a mixture of fear and wonder, that it was her own magic, responding something she had always felt, but never fully understood. It had been dormant, hidden by years of survival and pain, but now it awakened. The wolf growled softly, ears back, as if sensing the power in the clearing. Kale took a cautious step toward her. "Elara, what is this?" "I don't know," she admitted. I think it's connected to me. Something I never controlled before." Her chest rose and fell quickly. Fear and excitement mingled, an electric tension that made the hairs on her arms stand on end. Kale's gaze softened, and for a moment, he looked less like the untouchable alpha and more like the man she had once known. He reached toward her, and instinctively, she did not step back. Their fingers brushed, and a shock of energy passed between them, not painful, but alive, as if the forest itself acknowledged their connection. You're the one," he breathed, voice low, almost a whisper. "I should have known." Elara stared at him, heart pounding. "Known what?" "That destiny. I was blind. I didn't see what I had before me," Kyle said, stepping closer, his presence overwhelming, comforting, and terrifying, all at once. Her chest tightened. "And now?" she asked, voice trembling. "Now that you see me, what will you do?" Kale hesitated. His jaw tightened, and his dark eyes seemed to hold both regret and longing. "I don't know, but I won't leave you again. Not if I can help it." The forest seemed to grow still, as if holding its breath. Even the wolf, freed but watchful, stood frozen. The glow around Elara pulsed brighter, stronger, as if confirming Kale's words, or perhaps warning them both. Suddenly, a sharp, icy wind swept through the clearing, and the glow flared violently. Elara stumbled back, tripping over a root, her hand flaring with uncontrollable magic. Kale caught her instantly, pulling her close, his chest solid against hers. Their eyes met, wide with fear and wonder. This power," Kale said, voice taut. "It's more than I imagined, more than anyone could have expected. I don't know how to control it," Elara gasped, struggling to pull free. But his grip was firm, yet gentle. "You will," he said, his voice steady, unwavering. "And I will help you, whatever it takes." For a moment, the world outside the forest, the clans, the threats, the betrayal, seemed to vanish. Only the two of them remained, bound by something older than themselves, something neither could deny. It was not just desire or longing, it was destiny, cruel and beautiful. Then, the glow surged again, this time forming a shape in the air. A shimmer of light that coalesced into a figure, faint and fleeting. Elara stepped back, alarmed, and Kale's eyes narrowed. "It's a relic, a mark of the prophecy," he murmured, recognition flashing in his gaze. "It reacts to your magic. To you." Elara felt a chill run down her spine. She had always sensed that her life was not ordinary, that something greater had been written for her. But to see it now, in the presence of the man who had once turned away, was almost too much to bear. The spectral light pulsed once, twice, and then darted toward her, brushing against her palm. A jolt of energy shot through her, a strange combination of warmth and fear. She gasped, stumbling back against Kale's chest again. You are the one," Kale said again, his voice filled with awe and something like reverence. "The one fate meant for me, the one who could change everything." Elara's head spun, her heart raced. Anger, longing, fear, and a strange, unnameable hope all collided within her. She had survived betrayal, isolation, and doubt, but now, destiny itself seemed to demand her attention, and it demanded Kale's. The wolf, now at the edge of the clearing, howled a long, haunting note that echoed through the trees. The sound seemed to mark a beginning, a warning, and a promise, all at once. Ilara met Kale's eyes, seeing not just the Alpha she had known, but the man beneath the man who could hurt her again. Or the man who could stand with her, side by side, against whatever the future held. Neither spoke for a long moment. The wind whispered secrets through the trees. The glow from her magic dimmed but left a lingering warmth, like embers of a fire ready to ignite. Finally, Kale spoke, his voice low but firm. "We cannot ignore this. Not anymore. Whatever comes next, we face it together." Ilara's gaze softened, though caution lingered. "Together? Yes. But know this, if you turn your back again, it won't just be the clans that suffer. It will be us. Everything." Kale nodded solemnly. "I understand. And I won't fail you again." For the first time in years, Ilara felt the stirrings of trust, not complete, not unbroken, but real. The forest around them seemed to breathe with her, alive with shadows and whispers of destiny. The relic's light pulsed one last time before fading into the night, leaving the clearing bathed in moonlight. Yet, the sense of power, of something greater than either of them, lingered in the air. The world had shifted, and neither could deny it. And somewhere in the shadows, unseen and silent, the first tendrils of fate began to twist, weaving a web that would draw both of them deeper than they could imagine. The night was only beginning. The night pressed on, thick with shadows and the scent of wet earth. The forest seemed to hum with quiet energy, alive with secrets only those attuned could feel. Ilara and Kale walked side by side, their steps careful and deliberate over the twisted roots and damp soil. Though neither spoke much, the tension between them was heavy. An invisible thread pulling them closer and threatening to snap at the slightest provocation. Ilara could feel it, the pull of her own magic, lingering from the encounter with the relic. It made her heart beat faster, but it also filled her with unease. She had never experienced such power. And the knowledge that Kale had witnessed it made her both wary and exposed. "You should not have come so close to the relic tonight," Kale said finally, his voice low, almost a murmur against the wind. "It could have overwhelmed you. Or worse." "I managed," she replied, keeping her tone steady though her hands trembled slightly. "I am stronger than you think." Kale's gaze softened but remained unreadable. "Stronger than I thought. But strength alone will not be enough. You must learn control, or this power may turn against you." Ilara's chest tightened. She had spent years surviving, honing herself to endure loss and betrayal. And yet, here was Kale, the one who had abandoned her, offering guidance as if he had always been there. Anger and longing warred within her. They walked in silence for a while, until the forest opened into a small clearing, illuminated by the faint glow of moonlight. A fallen tree lay across the path, and Kale crouched to test its stability. "You cannot stay here," he said. "The clans will notice if we linger too long." "I am not afraid of them," Ilara said quietly, though her voice lacked conviction. She knew the truth alone. She would be vulnerable. With Kale, she felt a strange mixture of safety and uncertainty, as if standing on the edge of a precipice. Kale's eyes searched hers, dark and intense. "You are brave. Braver than most. But this world, it will not wait for bravery alone." Ilara met his gaze, seeing the faintest flicker of remorse and worry there. He had hurt her, left her, and yet here he was, shadowed in regret, drawn to her as she was to him. She could not deny the pull she felt toward him, a force stronger than anger or mistrust. As they moved deeper into the forest, a sudden rustle in the undergrowth startled them both. Kale's hand went to the hilt of his sword, his posture protective, commanding. Out of the shadows stepped a figure cloaked in deep green, the insignia of the rival Moonclaw clan, faintly glinting on the clasp of their robe. "You should not be here, Alpha," the figure said, voice sharp and deliberate. The forest is no place for weaklings or for traitors. Kale straightened, his presence radiating authority. The figure chuckled, low and menacing, but their eyes flicked to Alara. Recognition flashed, and a dangerous smile curled their lips. Ah, the healer. I see the rumors were true. The one who escaped the Alpha's betrayal. Alara stiffened, gripping her staff tighter. She felt her magic flare, subtle at first, then stronger, as her fear and anger surged. Kale's eyes met hers, a silent question and promise. She nodded slightly. With a soft exhale, she allowed the magic to flow around her, a shimmering aura of light and power. The figure staggered back, unprepared for such force from someone so small. Kale stepped forward, sword ready, but his eyes never left hers. "You do not have to fight alone," he said softly, voice almost a whisper, meant only for her. Ilara's fingers trembled as she directed the energy, the glow wrapping around her and pulsing outward. The Moonclaw figure snarled, retreating for a moment, clearly unnerved by the unexpected display. Kale advanced, voice commanding, "Leave. Now. Or face both of us." The figure hesitated. Then, with a final glare at Alara, melted back into the shadows. The forest seemed to breathe again, tension easing, though the pulse of magic in the air remained. Alara sank to her knees, exhaustion washing over her. Kael knelt beside her, hand brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. For a moment, she thought he would pull her into his arms, but he only lingered close, a steady presence against the storm of her emotions. "You have power beyond imagination," he said quietly. "And yet you fear it. That fear, it makes you human, but also dangerous in the best way." Elara's voice was barely audible. "I don't want to be dangerous. I want to survive." Kale's gaze softened, and he reached out, brushing his thumb along her cheek. "Survival is not enough. You were meant for more. And I was meant to be here with you. If only I had the courage to see it before." Her chest tightened, a mixture of hope and old pain. She wanted to believe him, to let herself feel the pull between them, but trust was fragile. And yet, there was something in the way he looked at her, something that made her believe he truly had changed. They stayed there until the moon rose high, casting silvery light across the forest floor. Then Kale stood, extending a hand to her. "We must move. The night is not safe, and your magic, it will draw attention if we linger." Alara hesitated, then took his hand. As they walked, the tension between them shifted subtly. Anger still simmered, but now mixed with curiosity and something deeper, a thread of connection that neither could ignore. Hours passed in cautious movement through the forest. Shadows danced, and the wind carried distant sounds of the clan lands. The forest seemed endless, yet the sense of destiny grew stronger with each step. Alara could feel it in her bones, a pull toward something inevitable, something that neither she nor Kale could escape. Finally, they reached a hidden glade, a place Alara had used as a refuge in the past. A small fire pit lay in the center, surrounded by stones worn smooth. Kael knelt to light a fire, the flames flickering across his strong features. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the ground near the fire. "We will rest here for a while. You need it." Alara settled, hands clasped tightly in her lap. She watched him move with practiced ease, the alpha in every motion, yet careful not to dominate or intimidate her. It was both infuriating and comforting. "You could have left me," she said quietly, breaking the silence. "Years ago, you turned away. And her voice faltered. "I survived. But I waited. I hoped. Foolishly, perhaps." Kale knelt across from her, firelight dancing in his dark eyes. "I failed you," he said simply. "I cannot undo that, but I can try to make it right. I have no excuses, only regret, and a desire to stand by you now." If you will let me. Ilara's throat tightened. She wanted to speak, to lash out, to push him away, but the warmth of the fire, the quiet strength in his presence, the lingering magic between them. It softened her edges, if only slightly. A sudden sound shattered the fragile calm, a whisper, like a voice carried on the wind. Ilara froze. The hair on her arms rose. Kale's hand went to his sword, eyes scanning the shadows. It's coming, Kale said quietly, almost to himself. The one bound to the relic. The prophecy. It stirs. Ilara's stomach churned. She had felt destiny before, a pull she could not ignore. But this was different. Something ancient, powerful, and dangerous was awake, drawn to her. And to Kale. Together, she said softly. More to herself than to him. Whatever it is, we face it together. Kale's eyes met hers, steady and unwavering. Together, he agreed. And in that word, a promise formed, a fragile, burning promise that neither betrayal nor fear could yet destroy. The forest settled around them, but the air remained charged. Shadows moved with a life of their own, and the fire flickered as though aware of the unseen eyes watching. Ilara felt a pulse in her veins, her magic responding, alive and aware. She was no longer just a survivor. She was something more, something the world would notice, whether it wished to or not. And as the wind whispered through the trees, carrying secrets older than the clans themselves, Ilara knew one thing with certainty. Her life had changed forever, and Kale's presence, once a source of pain, had become part of the path she could not refuse. The night stretched on, endless and full of shadows, and somewhere deep in the forest, an unseen force stirred, watching, waiting, aware that destiny had finally chosen its players. Ilara shivered not from cold, but from the knowledge that the coming trials would test everything she thought she knew. And Kale, standing guard beside her, would either be her salvation or a shadow she could never outrun. The forest around them had grown darker, the trees dense and twisting, as if trying to hide some ancient secret. Ilara and Kale moved carefully through the undergrowth. Every step measured, every sound amplified. In the quiet night, the moon had vanished behind thick clouds, leaving only the faint glow of Ilara's magic to guide their way. Kale's presence was steady beside her, a reminder of strength and protection. Yet, Ilara sensed tension in him, the kind that came from carrying burdens no one else could see. She wanted to ask about the years he had been gone, about the betrayal that had left scars in both her heart and mind. But the words stuck in her throat. There was no easy way to reopen old wounds. "You're quiet tonight," Kale said, breaking the silence, his voice a low rumble against the wind. "You should speak. Silence is heavier than words sometimes." Ilara glanced at him, shadows flickering across his face. "I am thinking," she replied softly, "about what comes next. About the prophecy. About us." Kale's eyes flickered at the word, us, and something unspoken passed between them. He had once been a man who could command loyalty without question, who could bend hearts and wills with his presence. But now, he seemed cautious, almost afraid of what he might stir in her. "We must reach the ruined citadel," he said finally, voice firm. "It is where the prophecy can be understood, where your power can be tested and controlled. If we delay, others will seek it before us." "And the 4010, Ilara nodded, though unease curled in her stomach. The ruined citadel was a place whispered about in fearful tones among the clans. Ancient, abandoned. Cursed, no one who had entered had returned unchanged. And yet, she felt an undeniable pull toward it, as if it were calling her, drawing her forward with threads of destiny she could neither see nor resist. As they walked, a cold wind swept through the trees, carrying with it a faint, otherworldly sound, a mixture of whispers and laughter. Faint, but unmistakable. Alara's hand went instinctively to her chest. "Do you hear that?" Kael's eyes narrowed, scanning the shadows. "The spirits of the forest," he said quietly. "They know we are coming. They are watching, waiting to see if we are worthy." Alara shivered. "I've felt eyes on me before, but never like this. It's alive." "It is alive," Kael agreed. "Everything in these woods has memory. Pain, betrayal, courage. All of it lingers." The path narrowed, twisting between gnarled roots and jagged rocks. The remnants of an old stone wall appeared, half swallowed by moss and ivy. The citadel was near. Ilara's pulse quickened, both from the proximity of their goal and the strange energy that pulsed through her. She could feel it, her magic resonating with the ruins, responding to something old and hidden. Kael stopped, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Stay close. Whatever awaits inside will test us, perhaps more than the forest, or the clans, ever could." Ilara nodded, though her heart thudded loudly in her chest. They stepped into the outer courtyard, where broken statues and shattered pillars littered the ground. Moonlight, peeking briefly through the clouds, illuminated faint symbols carved into the stones, symbols that pulsed slightly as her magic brushed against them. "This place, it remembers," Ilara whispered. "It remembers everything." Kael's gaze swept the area, alert for threats, but his eyes kept returning to her. "And it will see you for what you are. That is why you must be ready. Not just with magic, but with heart, mind, and trust." Ilara swallowed hard. Trust was a fragile thing between them. She had spent years learning to rely only on herself, and now, beside him, she felt the fragile threads of connection stirring once more. But could she believe him? Could she risk herself again? They entered the inner courtyard, where the ruins were denser, shadows deeper. Ilara's magic responded strongly here, light weaving around her like living threads. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted, and a faint, spectral figure appeared like mist given form. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the pulse of her magic. Kael's hand went instinctively to his sword, but he did not strike. Instead, he whispered, "It is testing you. Do not falter." The figure drifted closer, and Ilara felt a mixture of fear and awe. It was beautiful and terrible, a memory of the past entwined with magic she could not yet name. I don't know what to do," she admitted, voice trembling. "You do," Kael said. "Trust yourself. Trust what you feel. Your power is part of who you are, not something to fear." Taking a deep breath, Ilara reached out with her magic, weaving light through the shadowed form. The figure shimmered, its shape twisting and bending with her control. Slowly, it seemed to recognize her, bowing slightly, before dissolving into a soft glow that vanished into the night. Kael exhaled sharply. "Well done," he said, though his voice carried awe and something deeper, almost like pride. Ilara's chest swelled with both relief and fatigue. Her magic had grown, but so had the weight of what she carried. She realized that the prophecy was not just about power, it was about choice, courage, and confronting the shadows of both the past and future. Kael moved closer, his presence grounding her. "You are ready," he said quietly. "But not alone. We face what comes next together." Her heart thudded. Together. The word felt heavy with meaning, binding them in ways neither had fully acknowledged. She wanted to speak, to tell him that she believed him, that she trusted him. But the ruins seemed to hum with anticipation, a warning that their trials were far from over. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a low roar echoed through the ruins. Stones shifted, and a shadow darker than night itself moved between the pillars. Ilara instinctively raised her hands, magic flowing, light twisting to meet the threat. Kale's sword was drawn, ready, but he did not advance recklessly. He waited for her signal, waiting for her strength to guide them. The shadow took form, a figure wreathed in darkness, eyes glowing like molten silver. It stepped forward, the air around it chilling, pressing down on them. Elara could feel her magic reacting, drawn to the figure's power. "Who? What are you?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. The figure's voice echoed in her mind, low and resonant. "I am the guardian of what was hidden. I test those who would claim the power of the citadel. Only the worthy may pass." Kale stepped closer, protective, his presence a solid wall beside her. "Elara," he said softly, "you are worthy. Remember that. I trust you." Elara's fingers glowed as she focused her magic. She reached toward the shadow, weaving threads of light and energy, feeling the pulse of the citadel itself responding. The battle was not of strength alone, it was of heart, of courage, and of trust in herself. The shadow lunged, and she met it with every ounce of her power. Light and dark collided, echoing through the ruined walls, casting long, dancing shadows. Kyle moved as needed, defending her when darkness crept too close, but always letting her lead. Minutes passed like hours. Every strike, every movement, demanded focus, precision, and courage. Elara's fear flared, but so did her determination. She was not the frightened girl abandoned in the forest years ago. She was stronger, wiser, and bound to a destiny that even KL could not define for her. Finally, the shadow faltered, dissolving into a cascade of silver light. The ruins fell silent, as if the citadel itself exhaled, satisfied. Elara collapsed to her knees, exhausted, chest heaving. Kale knelt beside her, placing a firm hand on her shoulder, his expression unreadable, but his eyes full of something she could not name. "You did it," he said quietly. "You passed the trial." Elara looked at him, struggling to catch her breath. "We did it," she corrected softly, meeting his gaze. Together had carried them through, though the burden of her magic and her courage had led the way. Kale's hand brushed hers, and a warmth spread through her that had nothing to do with magic. "You are more than I imagined," he said, voice low, almost reverent. "Stronger, braver, more than worthy of what destiny has in store." Elara felt tears prick her eyes, though she did not let them fall. He looked down, jaw tight, then met her gaze with a solemn intensity. "It asks that I follow you. Not lead, not command, but stand by you. That is my trial, as much as yours." A hush fell over the ruins, broken only by the whisper of wind through broken stones. The citadel had tested them, and both had passed. But the night was far from over. Something lingered, a shadow they had not yet seen, a force that would challenge not just their power, but their hearts. Elara rose slowly, magic still humming faintly around her. "Then we continue," she said, voice steady despite the exhaustion. "We face whatever comes next. Together." KL extended his hand, and she took it without hesitation. For the first time, she felt the fragile bond of trust fully form between them. Whatever lay ahead, clans, curses, or destiny itself, they would meet it side by side. And as the ruins fell behind them, silent and watchful, Elara sensed a new force stirring in the shadows, a presence that would test every choice they had made, every step they took, and every thread of courage and love that bound them together. The night was far from over. Dawn was not yet breaking when Elara and KL emerged from the shadows of the ruined citadel. The forest seemed to hold its breath, the air thick with a lingering magic that had not yet faded. The trials of the night had changed them both. Elara felt it in her bones, a weight lifted, a power tempered by courage. and a bond forged through fire and shadow. Kale's hand remained close to hers, fingers brushing in quiet reassurance. For the first time in years, the world felt different, like it had opened a secret path that only they could follow. The past, the betrayal, the abandonment, the fear still whispered. But it was no longer a chain. It was a shadow at the edge of the light, a reminder of what they had overcome. "We did it," Kale said quietly, voice still low with the weight of exhaustion and relief. "The Citadel has acknowledged your power, acknowledged you." Ilara looked at him, seeing not just the Alpha, but the man who had once left her, and yet had returned. Unbroken, and more human than ever. She swallowed hard, a mixture of hope and lingering pain twisting in her chest. "And what now?" she asked. "What does destiny want from us next?" Kale's gaze softened, eyes tracing the curve of her face in the pale light. "Now," he said slowly, "we decide. The power you carry, the prophecy, it is yours to shape. And I stand with you. Not as a protector alone, but as someone who will face the consequences with you." Ilara's breath caught. Those words carried more than loyalty. They carried the possibility of trust, of connection, of redemption. She had spent years believing she was alone in the world, that she had to carry every burden herself. And now, beside him, she realized she could choose otherwise. They walked in silence for a while, the forest alive with the morning chill. Somewhere distant, the clans stirred, unaware of the awakening that had taken place deep within the ruined citadel. Ilara felt the pulse of her magic, steady now, resonant with a control she had not thought possible. She glanced at Kale, noting the way his dark eyes softened whenever they met hers. "You have changed," he said finally, voice low but steady. "Stronger, braver, more alive than when I last saw you." "And you?" she asked, curiosity and caution threading her words. "Have you changed? Or do I only see what I want to see?" Kale smiled faintly, a shadow of humor in his expression. "But some things are hard to let go. Regret, mistakes, fear, they linger. But I am learning, because of you." Ilara's heart tightened. She wanted to believe him, to let herself step into the light that he seemed to offer. The pull between them was no longer subtle, it was a current that carried them forward, regardless of past pain or present uncertainty. As they reached a small rise overlooking the valley where the verdant clan's lands lay, a sudden shimmer in the air caught their attention. Ilara's magic flared instinctively, sensing something approaching, something deliberate and powerful. A figure emerged from the mist, a guardian of the forest, ancient and ethereal, draped in flowing light and shadow. Its eyes glowed with wisdom and scrutiny, and Ilara felt a shiver run down her spine. The guardian had been waiting, watching, and now it had chosen to reveal itself. "You have proven yourselves," the guardian's voice echoed, both inside her mind and in the clearing around them. "Ilara, child of the prophecy, you have faced the trials of power, courage, and heart. Kael, Alpha, you have faced the trial of trust and redemption. Together, you are worthy." Ilara stepped forward, hands trembling slightly as she allowed her magic to pulse outward, acknowledging the presence of the guardian. Kael remained close, hand brushing hers, his gaze steady and unwavering. "What happens now?" she asked, voice soft, reverent. "Now," the guardian replied, "you must choose. Power alone is not destiny. Love, trust, and courage shape the world more than force. Together, you may shape your path, or let it be shaped by fear and division." Ilara looked at Kael, and for the first time, the anger and pain of years past seemed distant, almost irrelevant. She saw him not just as the Alpha who had abandoned her, but as the man who had returned, who had fought beside her, who had proven that trust and loyalty could be earned even after betrayal. She stepped closer to him, their hands intertwining fully. "I choose," she said, voice steady, "to face the future with you, whatever comes. Together." Kale's eyes glimmered. A mixture of relief and something deeper. Love, perhaps, though neither had named it aloud. "Together," he echoed, sealing the promise with the weight of his presence, the sincerity of his words. The guardian regarded them silently for a moment, then slowly dissolved into the mist, leaving behind a sense of calm and a faint, lingering warmth. The forest exhaled, the tension lifting, as if acknowledging that balance had been restored for now. Ilara and Kale remained there for a long moment, the world quiet, except for their breathing and the distant stir of the clans. The ruined citadel lay behind them, a place of trials and awakening. Ahead, the future was uncertain, but for the first time, it was theirs to claim together. Kale's hand tightened around hers. "The clans will not rest. There will be challenges, threats, forces that seek to exploit your power, but we will face them. Together." Ilara nodded, heart steadying. "I will not run from what I am, and I will not run from you." A soft breeze rustled the leaves, carrying with it the promise of change. The night, the forest, and the ruins had tested them, shaped them, and revealed the depth of their strength. But it was their choice, their courage, and the bond between them that had truly determined their path. Kale turned to her, eyes meeting hers with unwavering intensity. "Ilara, I cannot promise the world will be easy, but I promise you this: I will not leave your side again. I will not turn away. Not now, not ever." Her chest tightened, emotions swelling. The wounds of the past, though not erased, no longer dictated the rhythm of her heart. She had survived betrayal, isolation, and fear. And now she had something stronger: trust, power, and a bond forged in trials that neither could deny. "I believe you," she whispered, letting the words carry the weight of years past. "And I trust you." Kale's expression softened, and he took a step closer, their foreheads almost touching. "Then we begin anew," he said, voice low, full of promise. Not as alpha and subject, not as survivor and betrayer, but as equals, as partners. Ilara felt warmth spread through her, a quiet certainty that whatever came next, they would face it side by side. The world was vast, dangerous, and full of shadows, but for the first time, she was not afraid. The sun began to rise over the horizon, a pale light illuminating the forest and the valley below. Birds stirred, the air shifted, and the magic that had guided her through the night settled into a calm pulse, steady and reassuring. Kale and Ilara walked down the rise, hand in hand, their steps slow but certain. The forest seemed alive with approval. Shadows retreating, light advancing. The ruined citadel lay behind them, a place of trials and revelations, but their path forward stretched wide and open, full of possibility. As they reached the edge of the forest, Ilara glanced back once, seeing the ruins silhouetted against the rising sun. "It's over," she whispered, though the word felt incomplete. Kale's hand squeezed hers. "It is just the beginning," he said. "We have survived the shadows, faced destiny, and come through stronger. But life will continue to test us, and I will not fail you." Ilara smiled faintly, a mixture of relief, hope, and quiet joy. "Then, let it test us," she said. "We are ready." The wind carried her words into the forest, and the faint shimmer of her magic lingered, a signal to the world that she was awake, aware, and unafraid. Kale's presence beside her was solid, unyielding, and real. A reminder that some bonds, once forged in fire and shadow, could withstand anything. And together, they stepped forward, leaving the past behind, ready to face whatever destiny had in store. The forest, the clans, and the world beyond awaited. But for the first time, Elara and Kale faced it not as victim and betrayer, but as partners bound by trust, courage, and a love that had survived the night. The sun rose fully, casting light on the path ahead, and for the first time, Elara felt truly free. The trials had ended, but their story had only just begun.